Hello there, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to style your React app using style components. Now style components has become quite popular in the last few years, and it's mainly because it's easier to grasp and you have less headaches styling your app because you don't have problems like name clashes in CSS classes, and you don't have a specificity issues as well. Because you're styling at component level and you will only apply styles to that particular component, and it's easier to track down style problems because you just locate that component. So I'm on the style components website, and they've got some sample code here. And if you look at it, they've got a button which is equals to a style.a, and then it's got backticks, and everything is enclosed inside backticks, which is you have your normal styles as you would write in CSS. There's no difference in the format, and then you can also feed in the props of your app for that component. And then you can do extra JavaScript manipulation with the props as well. So it's very dynamic in terms of styling and flexible. So it's got in the render you create a wrapper for your component, and then as you can see here, then you can and these will be the attributes or props, and you can access. So that's just an overview of how it's done. So if I go into the documentation, you get more details about how to use it. So it mentions in there the motivation behind style components, and it talks about it's a no class name bugs. Style components generates unique class name for your styles, and then it's easier deletion of CSS. So you can what it's saying here is that you can delete classes without worrying about the consequences, because these classes are specific to the component, so it won't have that big of a side effect. And it talks about dynamic styling because you're feeding in props, etc. And it's also got built-in automatic vendor prefixing, because what this means is different browsers use different naming for certain properties. So if you so this would automatically fill in the missing naming for that property for different browsers. So if I click on getting started, and it shows you a sort of a sample, so it shows you a sample style component here. So you're saying constant title equals style.h1, and it's got and it's enclosed in backticks, and the backticks is quite important thing here. The way you would use this style is I've got so the title, you create a wrapper called title, and then you wrap your component children around that wrapper. So that's how it's done. So here you got a title, a component that is styled with the titles component declaration there, and then the wrapper declaration is refers to the wrapper for the app there. This is a two-part tutorial. In the first part, in this video, I'm going to be doing the project setup, installing style components. I'm going to be creating some global styles, which is styles that sort of target HTML and the body tag, and also you can put your reset styles in there. Then I'm going to be styling a login page and create some base button styles. In the second video, I'm going to be styling another page, and it's going to be styling like things like the container, and I'm going to have a card UI, and I'm going to be also starting some button styles. So these containers are going to be sort of, flex layout. So that's quite interesting, and also going to be touching on general theming and using CSS variables. So that's in the second video, which is going to be out in due course. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to convert an app that has a style sheet written in traditional CSS. I'm going to show you how to refactor your code so that it uses style components. So this demo app will consist of a login screen, and as you can see, the login screen has a login form, and it's got a sort of a gradient background to it, and it's got a button and 2 fields. And if you log in, if you click on the login, and it will take you to a protected courses page. And then within that page, it has sort of 3 different types of buttons, as you can see here: add course, remove course, and more details button. And then it's got a sort of a card configuration, which is a flex layout, as you can see here. This is also responsive as well, so if I make the screen smaller and drag the edges, as you can see, it's responsive. Okay, so if you want to follow along with this tutorial, you need to get the starter code for this. You can go to GitHub and go to UIs, -code, -tv, and there should be a starter styled app. And if you click on the source, and you got all you need is the app.js and app.css. So you can basically just go into the app.js and just highlight just the code, and then right click and copy and paste into VS Code. So I've set up an app already with create React app, and then I've just copied the app.js and app.css from my repository. So as you can see, this is the same app.js in more detail. Okay, at the top I've got I'm importing a use state. I'm going to be using use state to have a state for the logged in status, and I'm importing the app.css, which is, if you go into the app.css, that's the CSS file that I copied over from the repository. Okay, so, and in the app.js I've got a root component, which is a root called app, and that renders 2 pages. It conditionally renders 2 pages. So as you can see here, I've got an if statement. If it's logged in, then it will render the protected page. If it's not logged in, then it will render a login page. And in the login page, there is a handle submit a callback, which will when you click on the form submit button, it will set is logged to true. So then when it renders again, it will go into the protected page. So that's the main logic for our demo app. So the protected page and the login page is separate function components. If you go down, as you can see here, I've got the login page component here, and I've got the protected page component here, which is quite a bit long. Okay, so in the login page, I've got basically I've got a form there, and it's got a label field with an input field for email, and a label field and input field for the password, and also got a button for the submit. Okay, in our protected page, I've got some heading there and some paragraph text, and I've got 2 buttons. I've got primary and a secondary, and as you recall, the primary is a green color and the secondary is a red color. So the main container for this will contain about 6 cards, as you can see here. Okay, so if I just collapse those cards, as you can see here, I should have 6 cards here. So there you go. So I've got main container with 6 cards, and within these cards I've got an image which as you saw earlier, it's got a gradient, and it's got some content with some H3 and some paragraph text, and it's got a small button with more details. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so going back to the app.css. Now in the app.css, so at the top we've got some global styles. So well, they're basically sort of standard styles that we're going to use all throughout the app. Okay, so I put in the CSS variables as a colon root, and I've declared some colors for it: primary color, secondary color, and then some other colors. And I've got sort of a gradient property that I put into variables, so I can use, instead of typing out this and specifying the value as linear gradient, blah blah blah, I can just replace it with a gradient variable. Okay, so that's the variables. So then I got some general HTML and body styling there. Then I got some styling for the login form. As you can see here, I've got the form and the label and specific styles for the form import. Then I got some heading styles here, and I got some button styles. I got quite a few buttons here. So I've got a base. This is the base button style. Then I've got different variations of that button. For which has different styling. So as you can see, I've got primary, secondary, and button small, and I've got a card button small. So these are basically related to each other. So if I go further down, I've got a container, which is a flexbox, and this is the container for the cards. So as you can see, it's a sort of a standard flexbox configuration there. And then I've got the card itself, and the card container has width of 30%, and it's a flex item, and it's got box shadow and border thing going on there. Okay, so then I've got some other styling for the card and content and the card image. As you can see, I've got the card image. I've used for the background, I've used the gradient here, as you can see. And I'll also use the gradient variable for the login as well. So login, if I go to the login form here, as you can see, I've used the gradient variable there. So I've used, and I've also used the primary color and secondary color variable. If I go back down, so for the background color for the primary, I'm using the variable there, and for the secondary, I'm using the variable there. So I can control the colors for our app from here. So I can change the color here, and I can change the look and feel for our app. Okay, let's just quickly change the variables for the theming. Okay, so if I first change the color for the gradient, and so I've got gcolor1 and gcolor2. If I change the color there, okay, and change the first color to an orange, and then the second color to a sort of a greenish color. Okay, so now if I save this and go to the browser, as you can see, the gradient of the background colors have changed now, as you can see here for the images as well. Okay, so now if I go back and change the primary color, I change the primary color to something like a blue, and a secondary color to a let me just see, sort of a violet color. Okay, then I'll save that and go to the browser. Okay, so I'll just still refresh just in case. Okay, so the primary and secondary color applies to these two buttons here. So I've got a blue and a violet. So that's how the theming is working. Okay, so I just put it back to what it was before. There you go. Okay, so it's back to what it was before. So just there you go. So it's back to a sort of a green and red and blue gradient. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just do some cleanup. As you know, we created this with the Create React app, and when you create a new app, you get these unwanted files. So I'm just going to go and delete these ones. I'm going to delete the setup, test, report, web, vitals, log, SVG. I'm going to keep the index.js. I don't want the index.css. Okay, so I'm going to, and I don't want the app.test as well. So I'm going to delete all these. Be left with just 3 files. Okay, so I've got app.css, app.js, and index.js. So in the index.js, we're going to do some further cleaning. We're going to delete this report vitals and this report vitals function call there. And also, I'm not going to be using the index.css. Okay, so this looks okay. So if I save that and just go to the browser. Okay, so alright, so everything is still working. Alright, so I just wanted to make sure. Alright, so I've just cleaned this up. So I've got 3 files, and we should be ready to install a style component. So to run style components, I'll need to go to terminal, or to install style components, and I just do npm install style components, and that should take a few minutes. Okay, so that's installed now, so just close that. Okay, in this tutorial, I'm going to be transferring these styles to style components. So I'm going to tackle it by transferring section by section. So first, I'm going to be doing the global styles. So as you know, in style components, you're actually injecting the styles for the component. So so to target things like HTML body, which are not in your component, there's a special way of doing the global styles. So in order for us to do that, we need to create a folder on the source directory, and we call it components, and we'll put all our components. Okay, so we're going to be putting all our style components within there. So within components, we'll create a folder for we'll say global, and within global we're gonna have a file called index.js. Okay, so this is the normal way of doing the style components. So you'll put you create a folder, then within the folder you'll have an index.js, which will export the styles to your component. So to create global styles, we need to import the method from style component. So it's an import, and we're going to say curly brackets, and it's from style components. Okay, so in the curly brackets, we're going to import create global style. Okay, for the rest of the tutorial, we're going to be importing style. Okay, so for this we don't need it because we're just doing the global styles only, so we're not going to be styling the rest of the app. Okay, so we're just going to do global styles here. Okay, so when we do a styled method, we do something like constant wrapper equals styled dot div, and then we have the backticks. Okay, within the backticks you have something like width 200 pixels and height colon 300 pixels. Okay, so basically we're writing the normal CSS between the backticks, and this just makes it a little bit more readable because when you sort of put it on separate lines, and this looks like more like a CSS. So so if and the backtick just makes it more readable. So because JavaScript allows you to do this, this is a feature. But this is the same as just putting brackets there and brackets there. So you're just calling style components with and it's a function call with a string, with our CSS values. So that's how you do normal styling. But for this case, we're going to be doing global styles. So we're not going to be doing this. We're gonna create a constant called global style, and then we're going to say equals to, and we're going to say create global style and backticks. And within the backticks, we're gonna put in our styles. So what we can do is we can go into our app.css, and as you recall, this is our global style. So we can just up to from the body to the root, you can just copy and then place it into our component global JS index.js file. So we can just paste it in there. Okay, so this is our, so I haven't done anything. Okay, so I can save this, and then and finally at the bottom you want to export default this function, so that you can import it into your other components. So it's export default, and it's global styles. It's global style, sorry, and you save that. Okay, now that we got our global style set up, we need to import it into our application now. We can import it into two places, the app.js or the index.js. Usually I prefer the app.js, but in this case we've got the rendering logic here in the app.js. We've got the protected page and the login page. If you're logged in, then it goes to the protected page, otherwise it will render the login page. So we need to put it in two places here. So for this, I'll prefer to simplify it, go into the index.js, and we just put it in between the React.strict mode tags here. Okay, so to use it, we need to, at the top, we need to import it first. It's import, and it's global style from, and it's // components, and it's global. Okay, so that will import it, and then we need to add the tag, which is just above the app, and it's global style. Okay, and that's all you need to do. So then we can we need to go to the app.css and just comment out the section that we've that we just copied over for the global styles, so that we know it's not going to be using this. Okay, so if I do go to the browser just to refresh, okay, so it's rendering with no problems. Okay, so next what we need to do is we need to do the login form. Okay, so to do this, what we need to do is go into the app.js. Okay, so the login page is rendered here, and there is a function for rendering the page here. So to make this more modular, we're gonna create a pages folder here, then move this into a pages folder. So I go to the source and then create a folder and say pages. Okay, within pages, create a file called login.js. Okay, and in the login.js, I just copy over this section here. So I cut it from there and go into login.js and just paste it in there. Okay, so and then we need to do at the end, we need to do an export default, and it's going to be login page. Okay, so then, okay, so then at the very top, we need to import styled from style components. Okay, so remember we used create global style before. Now we're using a style to style our application. Okay, so to create the style, so what we're going to do is we're going to create the style for the login form. So to do that, I'm going to do a constant, and then say we're just going to call it a wrapper, and is equal to styled, and it's going to be a form. Okay, then it's backticks. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to copy the login form styles. Okay, so it's everything in between the login form styling curly brackets. Sorry. So I'll go back into login.js, and I'm going to paste it in between there. Okay. And then I'm going to quickly go to the app CSS and comment out the login styling, and then save it. And the next thing that you need to do is you're going to use this wrapper instead of the form element here. So it's just a matter of just replacing that to wrapper. Okay, and the end tag to wrapper as well. So this is how you create a general style. So you create you give it a name, and so this is like just replacing the HTML tag or JSX tag. You're replacing it with your own name. Then you're styling it, and then you're specifying the element that you're are targeting. So in this case, we're styling a form. So then we put in backticks, and then we put the style for it. So that's the general way of writing styles in style components. So so you can still leave in all the attributes like we have here. You know, the ID and on submit handler, and you know, so when you click on it, it will handle the submit functionality. Okay, so if I save that and look in the browser, okay, so as you can see, it's rendering, and it's the button is working as well. Okay, so if I go to the inspect and then look at the style for the form, so just select form. Okay, so I've got select the form, and I've got the styling that I've specified, and this is not coming from the style sheet because it's generating this funny class name, as you can see here. It's got this class equals SE, it's got some random numbers, and that's the class that it generates, so that you know, you're not going to have any clashes with names, because it's only going to be specific to the component. So it's picking up the style, and it's not picking up from the app.css because we've commented it out. And if I go into the head, it injects a there's two style tags there. One is for the app.css. As you can see, we've commented out all the stuff that we've converted up to the login. So as you can see, the login is commented out here, but it's picking up all the other from app.css. So if I close that, then there's another style tag which has got data styled, and this is the one that is generated from the style components. And if you look into there, and it's got this sort of the funny class HTC, that's what we were looking at earlier, and then it's got the global stuff as well. So this is what it generates and injects into your web page. Okay, so that's working. There is another way of doing this as well. If we have like a shared format, say we have a base style for forms, and then we have for different forms we have different styles, then what we can do is we can just create a base style. Say I'm just going to copy and paste this, okay, and I'm going to call this form. So it's going to be a base form style. Okay, and that's gonna have this, and then the wrapper is gonna be we're gonna, instead of doing dot form, we're gonna call it with the form component, that with style component that we've declared here. Okay, so now we're using this, and then we can say I'm just gonna delete all this, and we're just gonna override the width. Say I'm gonna make the width 80 view height and the radius 15 pixels. Okay, now so it's got the base style here, and we're feeding it into our wrapper style component as an attribute. Okay, then we're overwriting the styles there. Okay, the width and the border height. So we go to, so as you can see, it's become wider, and the border radius is very curved. All right, so that's another way that you can do this. So I just put it back to what it was. Okay, so that's okay. So this is back what it was before. So just go, yeah. All right. So that, I just wanted to highlight that, and that's another way you can do it. That's so you're inheriting from a base style, then you're overriding. Okay, so now we're gonna carry on with styling all these individual components. Okay, so the elements, so label and button and import. Okay, so we can to style the rest of the elements, the label and the imports and the button, we can do it two ways. We can either do the individual label and create a wrapper for it, and import and create a wrapper for it, or we can do it in all one go. As you can see, I've left the IDs and the class names in there. So what we can do is we can copy from here. We can from the app.css we can copy the rest of the styles for the form. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this, and then I'm going to comment it out, so it's not going to be applied. So I'm going to go into the login.js, and what we're going to do is we're just going to add it onto the wrapper styling. Okay, so just paste it in there. Okay, so I've just done a straight copy, and so what this means is it's going to apply the styling for the elements with these IDs, the login form ID, label, and login form ID and input element. Okay, so in order for this to be applied, you need to also put in an answer sign there, and then that's the usual way of doing it in style component. Then this will also be included for the styling for the wrapper. Okay, so if I save that, and then I go to browser. Okay, so it's applying it. So I'm just going to make sure that we just give it a background color of something. We just say width 50%, and we say border radius say 20, 30 or something like that, something ridiculous, so that we know. Okay, so it's been applied. Okay, so as you can see, it's applied these ridiculous borders. All right, so we know this is being applied. Right, so that's how you do that. So just put it back to what it was. Okay, so just put it back to 100% and borders to 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 3 pixels, and 3 pixels. Okay, so just make sure it's working. Yep. So that's working as well. All right, so that's a quick way of doing styling. So you can straight copy into style components the existing styles for particular that targets IDs and classes. And all you got to remember is include the ampersand as well. Okay, just a quick note. You can just specify the label like this and not include the ID. It's the same thing. So I've just left it in there. So you can do that as well. All right. Okay. Next, we're gonna style the button. Okay. So we go back into the app.css and we got button there. So we've got this H2 as well. We can move that to the global. So I can just say copy and go into the index and we can just put it in there. Right, so that's just a global style so that it applies to all H2. Okay, so so going back, I can comment this out. Okay, so all right, the buttons, we have a base class for buttons. So what we can do is we can put it into our components, and what we'll do is we create a component for button here. Create a folder called button, and then inside there we're going to have a file called index.js. Okay, and in the index.js we're going to say import styled from style components. Okay, and then we're going to say constant button equals styled, put that space there, dot, and it's going to be button and backticks. Okay, so inside here we're just going to copy the style for the base styling. Okay, so we're just going to copy all of this, copy. Okay, so we've got the base style here now. So what we want to do is we want to export this out. Okay, so we'll do an export default. It's going to be a button with a capital B. Okay, and we save that. Then we're going to go into the login page, the login.js. So at the top we want to import, and it's going to be button, and it's going to be from. And the path of that component is /components, and it's going to be button. Okay, so then we need to use this button. So remember, it's got a capital B there. Okay, so we need to just change that button to just change it to a capital B, and that should do it. Okay, so let's save that and go to browser and do a refresh. Okay, so I think we need to also go into the app.css and we need to comment out these styles, okay, because it's still picking up the styles from the style sheet. So just comment that out, save, and go back. Okay, so now we've got a sort of a standard button there. Right, if I inspect that, and it should have a sort of a, it's got a standard style component class given to it with this sort of random number, and it's picking up the base style. All right, so that's good. Okay, so now go back. Now we need to Go back into the login.js. The button index. Okay, we need to we need to give it we need to know we need a way of knowing if it's a submit button. So go into the login.js. Remember, in the button we also have an attribute called type equals to submit. So this is a prop that you can access within style components. So the way to do that is if I go back to the button component, okay, I can put in after the base styles, I can put in a block of code which will start off with a $, curly brackets, okay, and within the curly brackets we're going to have a arrow function, okay, and inside there we're going to say props, then it's equal to, and it's an arrow function, so, and it's going to return a ternary expression, okay, so we're going to put a ternary expression here, and we're going to say props is equal to, props dot type is equal to submit. Okay, so we're checking for a type attribute, and it's got to equal to submit. Okay, if it does, then we want to return something. So it's a ternary expression. So I'm going to put a question mark. I'm going to say backticks. Okay, and then we're going to have colon, and if it's not, then we're going to return just an empty string. Okay, so if it is, then we're going to put something in here. So I just say color red. Okay, so if it's a submit button, what we're saying here is if it's got an attribute called submit, then we're going to return color, which is going to be added to the base. So it's going to extend the base styles. Okay, if it's not, then it's just going to return an empty string. Okay, so if I save that, go to the browser, there you go. Okay, so it's picking up that red, and it knows the submit button, and it's picking up the red. Okay, so go back. Now what I can do is I can just expand that out. Okay, just make it cleaner. Okay, so just make that. Okay, so now I can just paste the styles in there between those backticks. Okay, so if I go into the app.cs, and we're just going to copy the whole lot of this, copy, and go back to index.js. Okay, so we're just going to place it there. Okay, so just tidy that up. So just make sure it's more readable. Okay, so we got the backticks there, and in between the backticks we got our style. So if it's a submit, then we style it with this. Otherwise, we're gonna just return an empty string. So if I save this and then go and go, there you go. So it's brought back the styles, and it's picking up a custom style for a submit button. So as you can see here, so you add the base. Now it's overridden the base with the stuff we put in the ternary expression. So that's how you extend styles. There's another way of extending styles. There are different ways of extending styles. So this is another way of extending. So that's the end of this tutorial. In the next video, I'm going to be looking at how to style the protected courses page. So I'm going to be looking more into sort of theming and creating sort of primary and secondary colors, and how you can use CSS variables. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and see you in the next video.